I'm going to introduce to you how to fix your makeup after you have set your face with powder, specifically the under eye area. You can do this anywhere else, but I deal with smudging in my under eye, if you see. So I'm going to show you, look at that smudging. I'm going to show you how I fix it. I do want to note that this doesn't really work well when you're baking your face. So if you set a lot of loose powder underneath your eye, it's going to be a little more difficult. That doesn't mean you can't do it, but it's just a little more difficult to fix. You are going to need a makeup remover. I prefer the Garnier Skin Active Micellar Cleansing Water. I just feel that it works really good for this technique. I have tried regular makeup removers with oil bases and it ends up running and ruining the rest of my makeup. So this one is watery enough to work, but oily enough to remove the smudging without having to deal with everything else. You're also going to need Q-tips. It doesn't have to be a specific kind of Q-tips, just some type of Q-tips. You can always mold the corners by just twisting the Q-tip, pinching it. Just make sure that your hands are clean. Pinch and then just twist, and you can create that point. So I mean, if you want to buy Q-tips that have a point to it, you can, and it works fine. So what I like to do is I just like to saturate the Q-tip with the cleansing water up close and personal. So what I do, step one, is take the Q-tip and I run it along where I have the smudging. So I'm removing the smudges from the makeup. And I mean, you're gonna get stuff like that. And that's the example that I'm showing you. If you bake, that's what it's gonna look like, and it makes it a little more harder to clean up and fix, to be honest. I've tried it multiple times. So this is optimal for those who just spot set. So just lightly, and you don't wanna rub your Q-tip hard across. You just wanna get the smudging up. That's your goal. Trying to get the smudging off without removing a ton of your makeup. So you see, it's removing that makeup. But I didn't saturate the Q-tip too heavy, so that way it's not dripping. You don't want it to be dripping, because that doesn't work out either. It doesn't help you in any way. So the next thing that I do is I just kind of let it dry a little bit. So after I let it dry a little bit, then I go in with the concealer that I use to highlight or to cover up my under eyes, and I put it on the back of my hand. Don't go directly to your face. This is, can't tell you how many times I tried doing it that way and it just didn't work out. So put it on the back of your hand, because this will also help warm up the product, so that way it kind of melts and blends a little bit better. And I prefer to use a brush over a sponge. I felt like a sponge just, it doesn't give me the flawless look if I'm touching up. So I like to use this brush. This is a life-saving brush for me. I apply my concealer initially with this brush, and I just think it works really well. So I press the bristles into the product and I thin it out a little bit. Just get the concealer on the brush. You don't want it to be on top of the bristles. You want it to be in the bristle. So work it in. And when I am going to touch up my makeup, I start here so I can get the product onto the skin. And then I start building up where I need the concealer to cover back up where I remove those smudges. So if you're wearing dark makeup, I recommend starting for the inner corner first and then working around the eye, because there's a chance that you could potentially smear the liner or mascara all over, and then it mixes in with your concealer, and then it's dull and dark, and it's just not, I've done that too. So just apply it lightly. I'm using light pressure. The same way I would apply it to my skin the first time is how I'm applying it now. And if you mess up your eyeshadow on the side, it's okay. You can take a blending brush and just correct that. This is a lot harder to correct than it would be to correct your eyeshadow. So just go back and forth until you build up the coverage and it's matching the rest of your makeup. And I like to spend a lot of time blending lightly, just lightly touch your face. Spend a lot of time doing that because it makes the difference, because you are going to go back in with powder to set it, and if you aren't blended right, that powder is going to set weird on top. So I just go back and forth, just make sure you work the concealer into the skin. And that's why I love this brush, because it looks so flawless. And a sponge, I feel like it puts too much pressure. So I don't know, it's just my theory. I didn't learn this from anybody, I just kept trying. So there might be some flaws in this technique, but it works for me. So you want to take a small brush. So I use this to set my makeup anyway, and then the setting powder that you used originally. So I used this powder. So you're going to apply a little bit of the powder into the cap. That's too much, Kalei. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lightly coat my brush, tap off the excess, and I'm just going to press this along. Don't swipe. Press it along in the area where you need to set it. And I'm applying a lot of powder with the brush, so I mean, as long as it's not layers that you can look at when you're taking it off, this technique and tips should work for you. But again, baking, I've tried it, and it's just, I end up having to take off all my foundation when I do it because it doesn't work out. And then you can also take the time to just set your face by patting. So then to fix my corners, I just go in with the shadow that I used with a blending brush, and I just fix the corners. It's easier to fix the corners and blend out easier. It's so much easier to do it this way. And that is how I fix makeup smudging after setting my makeup and powder application. So I have used this on my face before, like for acne and resetting and covering up. It does work for that as well. Just be very light-handed, and that's why I have moved towards spot setting over baking. But I know some people, they love baking, and your makeup probably lasts longer and you can wear waterproof mascara, but I'm wearing waterproof eye makeup today and I still had some smudging because that's just how my eyes work. So I hope you enjoyed this beauty problems and solutions video. Let me know what problems you might have, and maybe I can come up with some tips and techniques on how I would approach it and fix it. Thanks so much for taking time to watch.